Hey,
Hey,
how you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy early evening.
Yes. I'm gonna go ahead and shout you out. First of all, you drinking from the wrong mug, but all right, we're not gonna.
Well, that
It ain't
mug
the
has
second-
tea. This mug,
supposed
this
to be
mug has
drinking from this mug. We got mugs, y'all. We got mugs. All of our presenters and people who've come on to the Blue Bottle series will get them. It's not what we're supposed to be starting out with, but you brought your mug up, so I had to feel like
Okay.
we had to do it. You
Yeah.
know.
Good
Um,
try.
but everybody who's blessed us will get a mug, and we're super excited about it. And you'll be able to get one too if you like, but we'll talk about that a little later.
Mhm.
So, welcome. It's good to see you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna shout
likewise.
you out. Happy belated birthday
Thank
and
you.
all of that
Thank
stuff.
you. Thank you.
Celebrate another
Yay.
year around the world.
Yay, 50. Yay, 50.
Yay, 50!
I'm
Woo!
loving shit.
Boy, you don't crack, boy, dude. You don't crack it out. All right, we guess we shouldn't. Yeah, I ain't gonna crack up on you. We got a special guest on today, so we should
Yes, we do.
get on to that. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about the Blue Bottle series? And
So yeah, the Blue Bottle series. So we're Hush Harper Lab. We're a new play development company in Atlanta, GA, focusing on experimental work by Atlanta-based Black artists. And the Blue Bottle series is really our way of sitting down and having conversations with other folks who are doing new play development in the city. So it's kind of a process talk, and I talk about the development process primarily. So.
Yeah, and I always say that it came out of because we were doing a lab and we realized that because a lot of Black artists in Atlanta don't get labs, then some of the artists don't even get an opportunity to know what to do inside of the lab. And so for us, it was super important to say, hey, let's find some of the folks who are actually doing new play development, who are super active already in new play development, and are ready, that can share their knowledge. And we have honestly had some really amazing people on. This is, of course, the last one of this month because we did them in November, and then we did some in May, and March, because this is March. Whew, pandemic
Oh,
break.
wow, it's March.
Yeah, but our next grouping of them won't be until July-ish, I think. Yep, because we like to kind of give ourselves some downtime and everything. So, but we're super excited because today we have Miss Brenda Porter.
A wonderful Brenda Porter.
And if you don't know Miss Brenda Porter, the actor, director, producer, workshop leader. I actually met her when I was at Horizon as an apprentice, and she would do this acting workshops on Saturdays, and so we were able to come and sit in on that. So I'm not an actor, but we all sat in on it and hearing some of the work that she's done. But she's going to tell us all about her journey. And I know Adaya has a very long-standing relationship with working with her, so we're going to get into all of that. But yeah, so we're excited. Are you ready to bring her on? Because I'm ready to bring her on.
Yeah, let's bring her on.
All right, so let's bring her on. Without any further ado, everyone, let's welcome Miss Brenda Porter.
Hey.
Hello, y'all.
Miss Brenda Porter and her infamous couch.
That's right.
Couch. So, but you have
I'm
to tell us
happy
why
to be on the couch with y'all.
Yeah.
And so I'm so excited about being here and being with you guys and having this conversation. I am very excited about it.
Yeah, so are we. So are we. So for Brenda, for the people who may not know you, could you talk a little bit about your journey and your beginnings as a theater artist, and I guess even the moment you realized that, okay, this is the path I'm going to be on, and this is the work I want to do?
Oh, you're gonna take me way back.
Take us way back, all the way back.
Way back.
Back into time.
So first of all, the moment that I realized this was the path, but nobody else in my world or my family realized it, I was probably around 10. My sister, I have a sister, an older sister, who I idolized. Anything she did, I wanted to do. Good, bad, ugly, didn't matter. I just wanted to do it. And she's 6 years older than I am, and she joined this little Saturday afternoon acting troupe for teenagers. I wanted to join. I begged the director to let me join. He let me join, and I took like a class, 2 classes, and my sister quit. She didn't want to be with her little sister. But the bug had gotten me, and I was not leaving. I didn't care. So it seems like there's an echo. But I was set, and that was it.
Mhm.
So that's my true beginning. And I don't know what to do about this.
Oh,
That was my true beginning.
okay.
And I didn't do anything again until probably high school.
Mhm.
And I'm not a singer, and all my high school did like musicals and stuff. So I was the secretary. I wasn't even a stage manager. I was a secretary.
Wow.
And if you know me, I am not a note taker. So all I did was sit there and watch. I just sit there and watch and figure out what was going on, took some classes. And so when I told my parents I wanted to go to school and major in theater, they were like, "What? You want to do what?" Okay. And I was like, "Okay." And I want to go to, I named all these creative, wonderful art and acting schools. And they're like, "No. You're going to go to a school where you can transfer your classes because if you decide to change, because everybody does,
Right.
Wow.
then. But I was in it for the long haul. So I went to school at the University of Georgia and got a degree in theater and got out on my way to New York with a friend of mine. Stopped in at the Academy Theater, auditioned. They offered me a year contract, being paid every week. And I was like, I can go to New York and start, or I can stay in Atlanta and get paid to do what I want to do.
Mm.
So I stayed here for about 4 years, and then I went to New York and came back. So that's the beginning. And I feel very fortunate to have gotten in on the wings of Harold Mitchell and Frank Whittow and Tom Jones. Some of those other wonderful people who just sort of said, this is the way it goes. And I did theater. I started directing, encouraged by Carol Mitchell. And I went from there to do, well, I actually started doing some teaching, and then started doing some directing. And I was fortunate enough to have worked in almost every theater in town in some capacity. At least not now, because there are about 30 theaters now, but at that time. And I had several people say to me, you need to start your own theater. You need to start your own theater. And I was like, no, it's too much work. Because when I was in high school, by the time I was 21, my plan was to be rich. By 21, to have traveled the world doing film and theater, and to have retired with my own theater and my own school when I was 21. Yeah. Well, that did not happen. And I think I gave up on that whole idea of having a school. I was enjoying acting.
Mm-hmm.
But my partner kept saying to me, don't give up on that dream. To start your own theater. And so I did, but I started with Shirley Holmes' Lady and Woman, which I did as an actor years ago. And I decided that I was going to produce it. Not as a theater, I just wanted to produce it. There's some people who wanted to see it again. I'd just go ahead, I direct it, I produce it, I put it out there, and it'd be out there. And I did. And once I did that, I was like, well, I have to produce it. I don't want to produce it under Brenda Porter. So let me find a name to produce it under. And then that started the ball to roll, because I really think that there's There's stories out there that haven't been told, or haven't been told enough, or haven't been told in certain ways. And so I wanted to do that. I wanted to help tell the stories of those who've been marginalized.
Right.
And I wanted us to know that we are ultimately more alike than we are different. And I wanted to do that and be that and have a place in the community.
Mm.
So I talked a lot, I'm sorry.
No,
absolutely, because I think
that's
especially
epic.
like a lot of people have to understand, like sometimes we're bringing people into the room and they're like, okay, well, why are you bringing that person? Well, this is why, because the idea of getting out of undergrad and getting paid for a position at a college, at a theater right out of undergrad is something that I don't know that we still talk about, or even something that's still available to people now in Atlanta.
Right.
And if it is, it's not easy to obtain these positions unless there are internships or apprenticeships. So I do think that it's interesting. That is important for people to hear how theater has worked and how it has impacted your particular trajectory, especially as how it related to you becoming the theater artist that you are now, and even the film artist that you are now.
Well, I think that my beginning really connects so much to you folks and what you do, because the Academy Theater was good about developing new works. They were good about helping me develop pieces. And so my beginning had a lot to do, my professional beginning had a lot to do with developing new plays, working on new pieces, and it was exciting. Mm-hmm. I'm not a writer by any means. I'm not a writer, but it was so exciting to see that development, that go from an idea to the stage, to the page, because we did it a little opposite. We didn't do the page to the stage. We would develop these things through improvisation, and then go, okay, so how do we now make that a scene that makes sense, that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and has all of the trappings that a good scene has, the conflict, the objectives, what are we trying to say? And it was good training ground for me. And it's one of the things that attracts me to doing new works, because I want to be able to do that with other people, to develop that and to give them a chance. Somebody gave me a chance.
And it's interesting because I don't know if people know about the history of the Academy and how important Academy Theater was, especially for a certain generation of local theater artists. Like almost everyone that I know who's older than me came through the Academy.
Yeah, and has worked at the Academy Theater, right, or was part of the administration or something. Everyone has it in their background.
Yeah. A lot of the theaters in town started from the Academy, or where people worked at the Academy. You talk about Rising's Outfit, True Colors, My Theater, Aris. So many of them. The Academy had a resident theater company that they paid a living wage every week. Now, it wasn't exorbitant, but I could pay my bill.
Right.
Of course, I was younger and I didn't have a lot, but I had my rent, I had my utilities, my car. Mm-hmm. And I got to play and have fun and get paid to do what I wanted to do. And I learned so much. And like I said, people took me into their wings, and I'm grateful. So I learned as much from them as I did from the experience of being at the Academy.
Right.
So are you still hearing this echo, or is it just me still?
No, it's all of us, I think.
Oh,
the echo is live.
It just happens sometimes. Yeah. Go ahead. I said it just happens sometimes. We're on technology and it gets cloudy outside sometimes. So,
could you talk a little bit about your new play development process and impact?
Okay, fabulous. I when I started my theater, I didn't think that I was necessarily going to do new works. It wasn't part of my initial plan. I just wanted to do good theater. I wanted to touch hearts. I wanted to tell stories. Um, but I teach a group of seniors at our senior center, and one of my seniors came to me and said, "I have a play I've been working on, and I'd like you to read it." Now I had read other people's plays, and I said, "Oh, sure, yeah, I'll read it," knowing that it was just going to be not that good. But I read it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this has potential. You should work on this." So we started talking about it, and she said, "Well, I don't know what else to do, where to go next." And so I said, "Well, what about a reading? Let's have a read. I will help you with a reading so we can get feedback. And then you can because I knew that it was a good overall piece, very, very almost TV episodic in some way. But it's a good piece, particularly with the drama and stuff like Tyler Perry was so popular at the time, his pieces and stuff. I was like, it's got some elements of that will bring in a particular community. So let's have a reading. So I did that, and she was like, "Okay, now what next?" And I was like, "Well, then you have to find someone to do it." And she was like, "Don't you want to do it?" I was like, "No, you need to have somebody else. Need to work on it some more and have somebody else do it." But she sent it out, and I guess it was meant for me because I wanted to take her all the way to the journey. Mm-hmm. So she became my first piece that we started working on. Now, between the time that we started working on her piece and another thing I did and another original piece, but she was the beginning. And so I guess my process is much like most theater folks. If someone sends me a piece and I'm interested in it, I'll talk to them about why they wrote it and what they are expecting and want to get from it. And, many times if they're new writers, they just want to get it. I just want someone to do it. They just want to see it on stage. And sometimes they don't even know why they wrote it. They just wrote it. It appealed to them. And for instance, with this person, I kept saying, "So what ultimately is this about?" And she's like, "I don't know. It just came to me. I started writing it." But why? What are you trying to say? What do you want to say? And she's like, I don't know. In fact, that was almost 6 years ago. She talked to me at the beginning of the pandemic, and she said, "I finally get what you were asking me. What is this? I know what this is about."
Wow, that's awesome.
So, but then I'd like to either a public read or a table read or something so that the playwright can hear outside of their own head.
Right.
Because it's easy to write it down and you know what it is. You know what it's supposed to sound like and what it's supposed to mean. Mm-hmm. But when it comes from somebody else's lips and they aren't inside your head and they don't understand the connection, then it's really important for you to see and hear if it's clear.
Right.
So I will do that so that they can hear it and then offer up the opportunity for questions and comments. I don't probably do it the correct way. But I'm like, I let the actors talk about what felt right in their mouths as the character and what didn't feel right and why. And I ask questions of the playwright, what's the journey? What do you want us to get? What do you want us to know? What is this about? Who is the protagonist? Who's the antagonist? Whose story is this? And why do they need to tell it? All of those questions that I've learned from the DIA to ask. And then I send them away. Now, Impact Theater is such a small theater, and sometimes what I have learned is that when you have a small theater and you say we're offering a stipend, that what you thought would be like, I'm going to have auditions this week and then next month we'll start, ends up going, oh, well, only 2 people showed up for the audition. Let me see who else. Or the 3 people that did show up are really enthusiastic, but they don't have the chops yet for this piece.
Right.
So sometimes we have cast 2 days or 3 days before.
Oh, wow.
So we are going into rehearsal, and because the theater is not mine, and I have a time slot in the theater.
Right.
I'm fiscally sponsored by the Academy Theater. I have a time slot, so I have to start rehearsals when it's on the calendar.
Right.
And so a lot of times the work that we do ends up being, we are trying to work this with the playwright as she goes back and tries to think, or he, like, what did they say? Okay, so just work on these 4 or 5 pages and we're going to rehearse this tomorrow, you know? So I'm looking forward to a time that I have a month or 2 months out that we can do the readings and all of those things, and the actors that are playing the parts can have some input, but it's a very ensemble environment. That's how I work, to its good and to its detriment, so that the actors have, if the playwright gives them permission, the actor has permission to say, I'm not clear about this, and why? And the playwright can say, well, let me clarify it or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to say, I want to kind of, to kind of recap what you just said that your process was for people who may have kind of been following, but not quite. But the first thing you do is, once you get the play, is you ask the playwright what their intent is. And then you go into a reading, and then you all, after hearing the reading, hopefully with actors who will be able to stay with the script for a certain amount of time, then they're able to ask questions and to have conversations about protagonists and what they want, things like that, what obstacles are, what makes it better, how to refine it, and then go into rehearsal. And then kind of be able to give the feedback. So,
yes. There has been, like with that one particular play, I had a cast of really well-rounded and well-informed and experienced actors do the reading, which I think was very important for her, because most of them were also teachers or writers or directors. So they were able to give her input, not only as the actor, but as those other jobs as well. But most often it's just the cast that continues.
Mm-hmm.
And can you then talk about, I know we got some other questions, but I want to kind of stay here for just a little longer if we can. Can you talk a little bit more about this ensemble feel, what it means to really have an ensemble kind of theater, and how that can contribute to a specific kind of new work process?
Okay, sure. I have been, I was going to say praised, but that's not quite the right word. I have sometimes been patted on the back, but more often I've been questioned and criticized for having a very loose way of working. Because sometimes, like a friend of mine said to me one time, if I were to walk into your rehearsal, I would say, this woman doesn't know what in the world she's doing. She's asking actors what they want, what they're doing, where they're going. What do you think? Well, does it feel good to you? Okay, well, if it doesn't feel good to you, let's figure out why. And, it's like, this woman doesn't know what she's doing. She said, but then you realize that at the end that, bam, we've known all along where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And so the ensemble for me, and it comes down from Frank at the Academy, is allowing the cast and everybody to feel ownership.
Mm.
You knowing where you're going, what you want, and having the final say. And sometimes you have to pull that rein and say no. But allowing everybody to have an input so that there's a feel of ownership and by that a feel of commitment, because actors are going to commit. We love to act. We're going to commit. We're going to be there. We're going to show up to rehearsal. But it's better when you go up to rehearsal because you feel like this is yours.
Right.
You know? And with a new play, that is possible. Not as possible. You know, if I'm doing the August Wilson piece, a Tennessee Williams piece, a Shakespeare piece, I can have input, but it's not like I'm helping to develop it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm helping to develop it and I've got ideas that are listened to, then I go home at night and I dream about it.
Right.
You know? And I come back with, I was wondering, what is this? And what, you know? And sometimes actors don't always present it to the playwrights in a way that is most, what word am I looking for? I mean, most, okay, that's right.
Well,
You know, that's, you know, sometimes we want to tell them the play that we want to write.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And not the play that they want to write, and help them write their play. But sometimes in telling them the play that we want to write, it either clarifies for the playwright what they do want, or it makes them think and say, that would be really a really interesting twist. What happens if?
Right.
So for me, this ensemble piece, and I think it has worked for me so far, but this ensemble piece is everybody having a little piece of the pie, or putting a little bit of the ingredients in the pie. So it's not my pie, and I measure out. I want this much and that much and this much and this much and this much, and you only give me cherries, and you only give me sugar, and you only give me milk. Right? It's not that. It's what are you bringing into the pie, and what are you bringing into the pie? Now, keep in mind, we're making a cherry pie.
Mm-hmm.
So what, you know, we're not just making goulash, but if we're making this cherry pie and you can put your ingredients and it just makes it better.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
No, definitely. And I think it's interesting too, because I mean, just based upon what I know about the academy and about, you know, so much of that developmental work being centered around improv, it's really the origins of what people call now improvised theater.
Right.
And so it's interesting that knowing that history and how that's fed into the work that you've done with your own company and the way that you approach the work, which is very different than a lot of theaters are used to, or a lot of actors are used to, or a lot of playwrights are used to.
Mm-hmm.
So I just applaud you for like taking that seed and using it and developing it into your own process. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it's frustrating sometimes.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's supposed to be frustrating.
And sometimes I get off track, you know. But ultimately, as I said, as my friend said, ultimately you go, okay, this is what I want, and you're going there. We want that pie. We want that cherry pie.
Right. Right. I mean, but I also think it's important too to make sure that there's that space where people feel comfortable enough to be like, we're going to try here. Mm-hmm. And it is okay if something happens in that pie and right now that was the wrong ingredient. And unlike in cooking, you can actually take it out and be like, no, this one didn't taste good. Let's move it along. But I think there is something to say about that collaborative nature of theater and really saying we're really here for the work and to make the work be the best that it can possibly be in this space.
Right. Well, that is an advantage and a disadvantage of,
Mm-hmm.
of impact theater, because as I said, we often, um, we don't have equity contracts yet. So I don't have a lot of people that have that years and years and years of experience that they have to unlearn to be with me.
Hmm.
So that's an advantage. They're learning this, many of them, their first, second, or third play. Um, but also it's a disadvantage because they don't have the chops to let it go if I say that's not the ingredient for the right. So it's a seesaw.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that, as you're talking about kind of advantages and disadvantages, can you talk some about Impact Theater and the challenges you all have had during the pandemic, and how that may have impacted your artistic practice some?
Yeah. So the first thing you need to know is that I am not technical. So while all the other theaters in town were going, we've been down for 3 weeks, we've got to figure out what we're going to do, and they get online, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, this pandemic will pass. I'm not worried about it. you know, 4 months into it, I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's not going to pass. I'll think about it, but I hate technology, so I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to wait. And I don't have the staff that some of the other theaters have that can go, this is your focus. How can we move into the technical world?
Right.
Right? What can we do during this pandemic? I was just taking a break. Um, and about 6 months in, I said, okay, I can't take a break anymore. But by then already, I'm already naturally behind, but now I am 6 months behind everybody else.
Right.
If and that's not to say that theaters compare. I don't think theaters should compare, but just in terms of where theater was rolling,
Hmm.
I was not behind. I mean, I was not there. I was behind. Um, and so I had to figure out how to try to catch up, how to figure out what Zoom was, how to figure out. And so I was lucky enough to have a couple of younger people who are a little bit more technical that had been interns with me before that I felt like I'd call and say, hey, okay, so just aside, my understanding is if you do this, you're over 50. If you do this, you're much younger. You're 30, you're 40. So I called them up because this is what we do.
Right.
I called them up and they said, "Oh, well, Miss Brenda, Miss Porter, it's easy. All you have to do is." I'm like, "Okay, it's not easy." But so I am still playing catch up. I'm still trying to figure out, and I'm a one man band. Um, I mean, I have a wonderful board, and I use that a little loosely. When I decided that I was going to start a theater, and I mentioned it to some of the seniors I was teaching, they said, "Oh, great, I want to help." Um, and one person said, "I'm taking a web design class. I want to design your web as my project."
Mm.
Somebody else said, "Well, I'll sell some tickets. I'll be on your board. I'll sell tickets." Somebody else said, "Well, I can do graphics. I'll design your posters." So I have a working board, a wonderful working board, but most of them are as technically challenged as I am.
Right.
Some of them more, some of them a little less.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm really pretty much a one-man band. Um, and so trying to navigate this new world amongst other things and trying to survive in just everyday life um, has been challenging.
Yeah.
I don't have those people to bounce it off of or to say, oh, I've got a great idea. Go make it work.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's been challenging. And how has it affected the way that I do things? Huh. In some ways, as loosey-goosey, improvisationally based as I am, in some ways it has made me work towards being a little more organized
Mm.
because I don't know that technical end, and so I have to plan in a different way.
Right.
When you know, I always plan, but I have to plan a little differently.
Right.
Um, and it's made me think a little outside of the box. I haven't always been successful with that, but it's made me go, okay, well, you have a front porch. What are you going to do with it?
Mm-hmm.
And how can you
Now,
get people to stand out in front of your yard? How many people can stand out in front of your yard, in
right.
your yard?
Mm-hmm.
And who will pay to stand in your yard?
Probably
Or
more
do
than.
I just offer it free?
I know one of the wonderful contributions, and maybe this has been happening before the pandemic, but I became aware of it during the pandemic, is your fantastic On the Couch series.
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk a little bit about where that idea came from? Because for people who haven't seen it, and I think all the episodes are on YouTube now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of it is like a history lesson in Atlanta theater,
Mm-hmm.
depending on who the guest is. And I've been really, really excited about it. So can you talk a little bit about where that idea came from? And
Sure, I will. And it happened after the pandemic. So that's my one thing I'm pretty proud of the fact that happened.
yeah,
I was on one of our town hall meetings. The theaters in town
Mm-hmm.
all met to discuss the racial inequality and inequity and equality that is happening in Atlanta and how to correct it, change it. I take that back. It was the very first meeting, and everybody was meeting to talk about making a statement in support of George Floyd
mhm,
and Black Lives Matter. And a conversation came up about wanting to be more inclusive. And some of the Black folks on the meeting were like, you haven't been, and let me tell you what you have and haven't been doing.
right,
And some of the PWI companies were like, well, we want to change. How can we change? And we don't know how to reach out to people. We don't know
mhm,
where people are. We don't know where they're designers of color. We don't know. And so do we train them? And we're like, well, there are plenty. You're
mhm,
just not using them.
right,
And so, and yes, there still needs to be training. We still need to train more and more and more. But that was what made me say, well, you know what? Maybe I need to have a conversation with some people out here just to let you know that there are Black and or people of color that are lighting designers, set designers
Mm-hmm.
that you're not using. And so was the question whether they were available or whether they just didn't work in the way that you usually work. And so that confused you,
Mm-hmm.
or was it that you didn't respect the talent that they do have?
right,
And so that's what really made me say, I want people to know that there are people out here who are talented, who are competent, and who are available if
mhm,
you want to use them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what started the conversations. But or started the idea of the conversations. The very first conversation, though, I had was with one of my young students and a daughter of one of our wonderful actors in town, um, Amber Moore, Amber Iman, who's the daughter of Margot Moore, um, because I wanted people to understand that we here in Atlanta, born and we breed talent. And she left here, went to New York, toured, has done a movie that's gotten a lot of, I mean, has written and produced a movie that's gotten a lot of hype, and has done Broadway stuff, several, I mean, like, she left here, toured with,
Hamilton.
I'm gonna say the wrong person, because I always
She toured with Hamilton. I know that was one
yeah,
of them.
she toured, but she actually toured the singer first.
Oh, okay.
And I always say like Bill Scott or something, but it's not. It's not Joe. But anyway, she toured, and then she came and she did Broadway. One show that was written that she opened up the premiere of it, and uh, based on Nina. She did Nina, and she toured with Hamilton. So I wanted people to know that just because you're from Atlanta and you happen to be of color doesn't mean that you aren't out there competing with the best of the best.
Right.
So she was the very first person. And I also knew she was full of energy and all of those kinds of things. And from there, I've had the fortune to speak with Adaya as an associate artistic director and dramaturg. I've spoken with administrative people, designers, costumes. I haven't had set. Costume, lighting. I've talked with people that have done acting, directing, stage managing, and so I feel very fortunate to have people that have come on board, choreographers, dancers, musicians, and given that opportunity to help share their stories and let people know we're out here. You're just not using us.
Right.
And though most of the people that I have had have been older, so they're sort of established and they're doing their own thing, there are a number of younger people that I have that would like to do more work, you know? So, yeah, I love my On the Couch series because I learn, you know?
Right.
I invite these people in and I'm always amazed. Oh my God, well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
That's a wonderful series. I enjoy every episode of it that I've seen so far.
Absolutely. Yeah, and for people who are watching, we put the link inside of the chat so that you can access it and follow her channel and see the On the Couch episodes that have already aired and are still available. So,
oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
I also know that, you know, years back, I would enjoy watching, you know, Studio One's talks and learning about the actors or the people, or even listening to Jada Pinkett in her Red Table talks. And I was like, we need that here because there's a rich history in Atlanta theater.
Definitely.
Yeah, Adaya and I've talked a lot about Atlanta theater history and what we feel hasn't kind of. It's not that the history isn't there. It's just that we feel like people aren't talking about it, or people are like, oh, we've never had. And we're like, well, actually, we did in these particular theaters or these particular actors or these particular persons. And they've been around for a long time and are still around. And so we do think it's very important for us to continue to try to capture Atlanta theater history, Atlanta's Black theater history that has already been here. It's just very significant and very important while we're capturing everything else. And also too, and small rant, but I won't go on very long. I think that too, it's kind of that whole idea of the South has something to say. So like, you know, we have to not defer all of our theater pursuits toward whatever's hot in New York or Chicago or LA. I mean, I think it's fine if we do that, and some theaters can do that, but then otherwise we're overlooking the artists who are here, people who are producing in developing new kinds of work here in the area, or new kinds of talent here in the area, or have had longevity here?
Definitely.
I think that's a really good point. I think for a long time, Atlanta was known as the place to come through. You come through, you get the training, you get the experience, and then you either went to New York, LA, or Chicago.
Right.
Occasionally to Canada, but that was pretty much it. And for a moment there, when Miami was big, you went to Miami.
Correct.
But it was a place to come through, and so I see that shifting a little as a place now to come to, and
Right.
it's so nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely has shifted. And considering all the technological challenges that the pandemic has brought, and also the social challenges as well. What excites you about the future in terms of theater?
In Atlanta?
In Atlanta, especially, but just in general.
Well, I think this year and some that people have been sitting. People's ideas, and I mean, people have been thinking outside the box.
Right.
So I am so excited about what will happen when we open back up, because we have the traditional and we have all this other creative energy and juices that have been going, and what it might produce for us. I'm over the moon about what that could do for us. And people are hungry. So people will come. I'm imagining that people will come in with a work attitude and ethics that will be like, everybody will be committed. I'm excited that I believe, I'm hoping in my dream, there will be new and exciting things with everybody so committed. It will be like, when you first fell in love with theater again, and everybody's just doing it 24 hours, 24/7. There was a time period there was a place that I taught at one point that the classes were during the week, and they would start at 7, and sometimes they would have to kick us out of the building at 2.
Wow.
The classes were that. Now, okay, not me, not my classes, because I always went, okay, well, it's 11:30. We started at 7.
We're about to go.
It's 11:30. I'm out of here. Right? But the other classes,
Right.
because the young people were so hungry, and they were all young, because who else would go from 7 to 2,
Right.
4 days a week in classes, right? But because they didn't have families and those kinds of things, but they were so hungry. And that's what I'm imagining theater will be when we get back, is everybody will be so hungry to be back, and they will eat it up, and they won't get their fill. They'll just keep, and hopefully the audience as well.
Right.
And I'm excited for new stories, because during this time period, people have been thinking and writing and exploring, and people have been spending time with themselves, and they know themselves better. So I hope, and so I expect that they'll be able to go deeper and be more vulnerable, because they will know themselves more. And I'm just overall very excited about whenever it is that we get back. And hopefully impact won't be behind, as we have been with the technical things. We'll be right there.
Right. Yeah, I'm riding with that vision and that dream along with
And I'm imagining that there will be 30 playwrights in Atlanta that are saying, Brenda, please do this new piece for me.
Please do this play.
Yes, please do this. And it means something. It says something.
Yeah.
That's my hope.
Yeah. So we have a question that we ask everybody every week.
We do.
And it's really, mainly so I can increase things on my wish list. But what stories or movies or books TV shows even are exciting you or and inspiring you right now?
Ooh. So first, I have an 85-year-old at my home who has dementia and occupies most of my time.
Mhm.
Um, so I haven't been watching TV as much. It's sort of been in the background some.
Right.
Um, and it hasn't, and I haven't been reading like I really like to. I'll read a play occasionally because I've got to figure out what I am going to do when we get back.
Right.
Um, so I haven't done a lot of, in terms of that, but I have almost every morning when we have our breakfast. Um, there's an old TV show called Any Day Now.
Mm.
Hmm.
That is doing reruns on one of those. I don't have cable, so it's on one of those, 69.3 something stations.
Right.
Mm.
And it is a show that I think took place in the early 90s. I mean, it was filmed in the early 90s, but it goes back and forth from nowadays to present to the young girls growing up. And it's the story of a white woman and a black woman who have become friends.
Oh, I remember that show. I love that show.
Yeah.
I never saw it when I was on.
Uh-huh.
And I have become enthralled with it because they were so ahead of their time in terms of all of the things they talked about, the racial issues, the women issues, the age issues, the health issues, the LBGQT issues. And so that what has sort of been enthralling me lately is, oh my gosh, they talked about that and they got that right on. And it's unfortunately still today,
Mm-hmm.
30 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
okay, not quite 30. Yeah, 20 something.
Wow. Yeah.
No, it would be. Yeah.
It would be 30.
So it's both. Yeah. So that's what's been keeping my attention lately and consistent.
That was a good show.
It is yeah. And when you said the name, I was like, I didn't know what you're talking about. But as soon as you described that, I was like, oh, I totally have watched that.
I remember that show.
Yeah. I've watched that show. So.
What about you, Amina?
This week, I mean, it's almost April, so my life is going to do something really different than the month of April. But I've been introduced to some anime, and so I am watching Attack.
Nerd.
And I'm not really I am not really a nerd so much as I know a lot of nerds and nerd culture combined.
You're nerd adjacent.
But I really am a nerd. I'm just
you are.
It's cool. I'll take it. But Attack on Titan, the show was actually ending in a few weeks, and so I just got to I slowed down. I was binging it, and then I slowed down because they haven't dubbed these episodes yet, and I was like, subtitles slowed me down for a second. I was like, but the writing on this show is absolutely phenomenal. So everything that we learned in season 1 is not what we thought it was in season 4, and so having to kind of go back and be like, oh wait, well that's not what I thought it was, and so it's really teaching me a good lesson on writing with some good foreshadowing, and also too just making every single thing count. So it's been a very good exercise, and I'm not an anime. I mean, I've watched some anime, but I'm not like big into anime. So it's been good to see another genre do this work.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Mm-hmm.
So I just, speaking of subtitles, I just finished watching the show that's on Netflix now that I really enjoyed, and I kept watching it because there was an actor who was on a show called Dark, which is a German show, which is amazing. That I was obsessed with, and I watched this show because an actor from that show was on this show. It's called Tribes of Europa, and it's this kind of dystopian show. It's in mostly German, but also some German and English. So there's subtitles, but there's also some English parts in it. But it's a really good show. It's kind of it was a 6-episode first season, so that was fun. I had a lot of fun watching that. And another thing that I'm actually going to watch after we get off, and I just found this today. It's a film, an independent film. So I don't know if it's any good, but the trailer looked really interesting. It's called The Black Emperor of Broadway, and it's on Prime.
Oh.
And it's a biopic about Charles Gilpin. And Charles Gilpin was a Black Broadway performer who originated the role in The Emperor Jones by Eugene O'Neill. So it's about Gilpin, and it's about that first production of Eugene O'Neill's Emperor Jones.
Okay.
And so I'm going to check that out because it looks kind of interesting. So yeah. So those are mine.
I'm going to now check that out too.
Yeah, and I just for everybody who's following along, I put them all in the chat so you can take a look at the chat and see what we just said. So
yeah, you type fast. That's good.
Oh, hey, I be trying to keep up. Thank you, Brenda. This has been awesome. We are so grateful for you coming and hang out with us.
I had a fabulous time speaking with you folks. And so I might have to have the two of you as my first duo on the couch to talk about what you do.
Oh, we'll do it. Sure.
Yeah, that might be fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Absolutely. So we'll definitely do. So thank you, Brenda. We're going to let you out for a second, and then Diane and I are going to close out the episode. But thank you again for just being here. And
thank you.
Everybody, make sure that you check out Impact Theater. Check out the link for On the Couch.
Yeah.
And be following along because they're doing some amazing work, and did do actually a show during the pandemic it was like 6 short plays.
Reading of short plays.
And so go back and take a look at that, because I think, was it Janice Lido who wrote them?
No, Shirlene Holmes.
Shirlene Holmes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Janice because she's going to.
Because she's right.
Yeah, she's going somewhere. That's right.
I know. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Representing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, but thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I love what you guys are doing.
Thank you, man.
Oh,
Miss Brenda.
I'm excited. I feel like we just get to call people that we either know or love, or like you're our friends, so we're just gonna call you and have you come hang out with us for a little bit. So I'm super excited alwaalways to have people come on. And of course, as I mentioned, this is our last one of March, but I do want to throw up our little PayPal for a second, in case you ever want to just donate to us, because as we mentioned before, we always are trying to make sure we do work for artists of color, particularly Black artists in Atlanta, and trying to get new work out. And so we are sponsored by the City of Atlanta Office of Cultural Affairs for this particular round. And so we are grateful to them for their funding. And also, if you would like to, I guess I should make sure I put this in here too. If you would like to own one of our wonderful mugs, they're $10.
They're nice mugs.
They are nice mugs. I like them. They got the little blue mat on here, the little white on here, a tree, and all of our logo. I really like it. I really do. So, all righty. Well, Mr. Moon.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see you guys in July?
Yeah, June because my reading is next.
Your reading is yeah. So for me, yeah. For Miss Amina's reading.
Yeah.
See what it's about yet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she got some work to do, but whatever.
I have more. Hey, hold on. You walked into the last.
I'm just saying.
You walked into yours with I don't have a play yet, so don't talk to me.
I'm just saying.
I'm gonna have a full draft.
You work my dramaturg. I'm your dramaturg on this one, so I'm a.
It's not right. Different rules apply. Look at that. But thank you all for joining us and for laughing with us and for being here and being an amazing audience. Always, these things are on our YouTube channel. You can go back and watch them at any point. They're also on our Facebook page. And also the link to our awesome mug is going to be there too. But we are otherwise going to see you all in June and July. Bye, y'all.